were no other viable options. And I view this as an opportunity to say, let's stop the decline. This is a situation that's been a period of decline of 60 years in Detroit. And it's resulted in $18 billion of debt that the city can't afford to pay. And more importantly, it's resulted in services that are not good nor appropriate for the wonderful people of Detroit. To give you one illustration, response times for police in the city of Detroit are 58 minutes. The national average is 11 minutes. I respect the citizens of Detroit, and they deserve a better answer.
One of the things that I want to say to our citizens is that as tough as this is, I really didn't want to go in this direction, but now that we are here, we have to make the best of it. I think Kevin and the team that he's brought together has a lot of history of succeeding. This is very difficult for all of us. But if it's going to make the citizens better off, then this is a new start for us.
It's sort of a classic example of a city that was once at its peak, and as its economic success began to go away and to decline, it was unable to adapt. So, I mean, it was a thriving city. Obviously, the auto industry was running the world in the 50s after the Second World War when there was no competition, so they got used to the great union benefits, the retirement, health care. They got used to all the other, handouts of money from the government, and when hard times arrived, it was impossible to, in the end, do anything because it would be seen as a cruel reduction of X, Y, and Z. And now they end up in a place where everybody's going to get a haircut, the bondholders, the retirees, and the citizens. The question is, writ large, is that story of the United States, which dominated the world economically, created all these programs, entitlements, Social Security, Medicare, and now added on Obamacare, living on the glories of the past when we were the most dominant without any rivals in the world, and now having to adapt to a reduced economy. Are we going to be able to have commensurate cuts? And when you see all the resistance to anything of that sort by especially Democrats and liberals, it doesn't give a lot of hope. In the end, you can have a bankruptcy for a city, but not for a country.
How did you feel when they said that, when you knew that that was not the case, that it was just rogue agents down in Cincinnati?
Sir, I was deeply offended. I mean, it impugned my reputation and the reputation of other agents and basically all federal employees.
Do you think the public has been purposely misled by assertions that Cincinnati was to blame? And your response was?
Yes, I believe so.
Was your frustration coming from the fact that you felt that you had enough information to go ahead and process these applications, but you basically were just made to sit on them?
Well, my frustration primarily was that I had to sit on them and wait for guidance from D.C.
Well, I think the news today is that the locus of the story left Cincinnati and is now in D.C. What we heard was it wasn't a couple of rogue agents, which is a convenient story. Now, obviously, cannot be defended. What we just heard is they got the management from D.C. demanded oversight, demanded that these applications end up in D.C. And there we heard from Carter Hull, who's worked half a century, now retired in the IRS. He's the one who was involved, and he says that when he received these, he was ready to rule yes or no. Instead, he was instructed to bring the applications to Lois Lerner, the notorious, the Fifth Amendment IRS employee, and to one of the two political appointees in the IRS, General Counsel. So it then sits in their office so long that when Carter Hull asked what's going on, he's told, well, it sat around so long, we're going to have to ask the applicants to send all new information, which is a Kafkaesque device for having an endless process, except the object wasn't endlessness. It was to get through the 2010, 2012 elections with these applicants unable to actually get approval and thus raise funds.
This has been a Sunfish production.